Hola and welcome everybody to season 6 of the Fireshrike. Nope, it's 6. I actually had to think about it the other day and I had it all wrong. No. And anyway, but that aside, we are this is the final season and it's a full 50 stretch. Everybody ready to go?
Mhm.
I hope so.
Sure.
Let's buckle in. We open with a very large, flat wasteland of nothing. And there's just nothing on the horizon. There's nothing in the immediate vicinity. We see, other than the occasional wisp of what look to be ghostly figures of people. Some we know, some we don't. And we see a lone figure walking through these gray wastes. And Cyril, let's get a description of what Cyril looks like for those people who may have forgotten since he has been gone for so long.
Well, now you spoiled the surprise. But, Cyril is dressed differently than he was when last we saw him. You don't question how one finds new clothing amidst the land between worlds and times. There's a gap right over there.
God damn it.
Oh my
But,
god, damn it.
uh,
Fucking gap everywhere.
He
Well,
is,
it's kind
as
of
opposed to
gap.
before where you could see his silver hair and silver eyes and the white and kind of faded, almost lavender poncho that he wore over combat gear. Now it's this voluminous violet dark robe that covers up the whole of his figure, and as he kind of shifts and moves through this inky, foggy wasteland, it's almost like watching a shadow or a shade move through the plains of Asphodel, and can not see much of him behind the robe or the way he moves, almost like he's floating more than walking.
Nice. Well, Cyril, as you were moving through this, you're seeing the great vasty nothingness of with the occasional wispy, ghosty figures. As you're walking, maybe you kind of have been like contemplating and not terribly paying attention to what's ahead of you. You've been walking for what seems like forever, and you look up and you see what looks like a tavern ahead of you, and it's like an old school wooden saloon kind of tavern looking thing. It wasn't there the last time you looked up. In fact, you've never seen a trace of it before just this minute. And the door is open.
Well, then there's probably a very brief pause in the Violet Spectre's steps before he shifts and recorrects his course to walk through the threshold into the inn.
All right. You look inside, and whereas the outside kind of has that dusty, worn look, the moment you walk inside, it's got like that warm, well cared for finish feel. Like everything has a finish on it. It's everything looks to have been polished, and you see like tables spread out here and there. What looks like there's a fireplace, and then there's a bar that is sitting there, and there is a lone figure sitting at the bar with gray hair, wearing a long coat and a hat. And when you want to enter, he turns around and he looks at you, his gray beard stretching maybe a little longer than you remember it, but maybe not so, but still within, within that reasonable, am I just imagining it or no? And we see, dressed in an old sea captain's outfit, long coat, old sea captain's hat and everything, we see one Chunderbucket Charlie, who's sitting there as he turns on his bar stool and says, "Oh, I've been waiting for you, Cyril. Welcome. This right here, this is where realities go to die. Timelines, dimensions, when they're done and they die, this is where they go. That's why you see all those ghostly images out there." Says, "Have yourself a seat." And he kind of makes a motion, and there is suddenly like a glass with some sort of drink sitting on the bar next to him, in front of the stool on the bar next to him. We have a bit of a discussion to have.
Cyril's, or what you can see of his face, is as implacable and unreadable as ever, but there's a brief pause before. Normally you would assume that he would have chosen to stand still, but he shifts over into the seat, taking it gently. Maybe there's just like that faint creak of old wood as someone sits down in it. He's ignoring the drink for now, just silently watching Chunderbucket Charlie.
And he says, "So, imagine you're about ready to get out of here. Find your way back. Well, it seems whatever pulls the strings is, seems you've have a role to play. Your friends, well, they're already out seeing other timelines as they're being destroyed and or assaulted. There's a bit of a thing that needs to be a bit explaining. You are already looking at these dimensional tears. Well, it's a bit more complicated. There's it's not just the dimensional barriers that are falling down, it's the temporal barriers. In fact, it's barriers between what is and what isn't that's falling apart more than anything. And your role in this, you are now unstuck from time and dimension. You're outside of everything. Much like me. If you'll remember, there's a bit of a problem in your dimension. The dominion of the black trying to take over. This isn't exactly a unique phenomena. They're doing this everywhere. There's a lot of realities have already fallen, and he kind of like motions towards like above the bar, and there's a television screen that you hadn't seen there, and there before, and there's several images popping up on there that look like various iterations of you and people you know trying to fight off the dominion of the black and failing miserably. Like there's you watch like all of the scenes that we had in the prior season where we watched like all different versions of our heroes either become corrupted or die. You're seeing all of that now on the screen. And he's like, and he kind of looks at you. He says, "This will be the fate for all of them, except it's not over just yet. Now I cannot directly get involved. Don't ask me what's the way things are. I can't exactly explain all of the rules to what is and what isn't for people like myself. But there are things out there that are much more ancient and yet somehow have never yet been invented either that are key to many of the things that are going on here. You've heard of what they're calling, your friends have been calling the dimensional sifter. Well, what it is it sits outside of time much like everything else. But it has one key component in every single reality. And once destroyed in a reality, it becomes much more vulnerable for attack in that particular timeline. I can't tell you who destroyed the one in this timeline yet. Unfortunately, it's a thing I cannot do. But I can tell you this. Your former friends, and he kind of pulls up like a video screen of the Zyval Veto you last traveled with and his crew fighting robot dragons, and then pulls up another, and like maybe he's got a channel changer in his hand, and this is how he's pulling these images up. He's just changing channels, and he changes the channel again, and you see Twinkle and his ship in Marixa Republic investigating. You see the library blow up with Xander in it. And then he flips it again to the stellar flare as it's just about as the purple and yellow energy crackle around it, and it disappears from the sky. He says, "They're all gonna need a bit of help, and I can't do much more than I've already done. Now I've taken a liberty. I've taken a step here. And he opens it. He kind of clicks the screen off, and he gets up and goes behind the bar, and he pulls out a box. And he says, in this box are the indexes. They're the indexes they're the indexes pulled straight from the sifter itself. They're corrupted, they're incomplete, they're not exactly the most reliable. There's a danger in using them. Every use risks the eyes of the dominion of the black falling upon you, but yours is not to use these. Yours is going to be to deliver them, along with a bit of a message. They're all going to need to know various things, otherwise everything falls apart. Twinkle, Xander, they're going to have to look into it. They're going to have to continue their research. They're the only ones that can find out they can find the underpinnings of how this thing's going to, of how to beat this thing, or at least how to keep the minion of the black from winning. Also, there's a few things that they need to build along the way. They'll need all the information they can get to help them point them in the direction they need to go. My suggestion would be for that ship to put to give the index to the one known to the android Xander. Although you'll want to make sure that Twinkle's aware of it and make sure that Twinkle is involved in this. After all, he's got control of the ship and will be able to pull the direction needed. The second, well, you're gonna need to give that to someone on the Fireshrike. Captain Zai and his crew will need it in the sense that they're going to need to find allies. When the battle comes to their timeline, it won't be a small one, and they'll need every hero they can get on their side. Now, I understand that some won't be available, some will be unwilling to work from that timeline, and some will be working for the Dominion. Which means some of the heroes you'll need will have to be picked from somewhere else. The last index, you're gonna give to Vesa. It'll help her find the allies she'll need throughout the places that she's going to go. There are things that are and things that aren't out here. And you have to be aware of what is and what isn't. You'll have to share that one with each of them. He says, other than that, I cannot tell you much more at this stage in what's going on. There's something about the universe that forbids it. There are, of course, other artifacts beyond the Sifter, but the Sifter itself, well, it's the important to this particular situation. The others may be important to other situations down the road, but this one, well, you've already met most of the heroes you're gonna need for this. Some of them are villains in some timelines, and some of them are heroes in others. This is if you're up for it. See that door over there? You step through that door, you'll go to where you need to go. Step back through, you come back here. You can use it a total of 3 times, because there's 3 places and times that you need to be at. Sorry I don't have more information for you, more time to prepare you for this. But time's a funny thing, even when you're outside of it.
Maybe while he's talking, what do these indices look like?
When you open them up, they start off looking like balls of light, but as you look at them, they coalesce into forms that become somewhat manageable in your mind, at least. Like they become like wristbands that look like wrist communicators. Two of which turn into wristbands that look like wrist communicators. The third one turns into like a necklace and what have you. But it says but he looks at him and says, "Your mind will perceive those things as whatever is most comfortable for you to perceive it as. Even this bar, well, it's a construct of our minds. It's just something that's there because we need something to perceive, and it's the closest thing. Whoever you give these to, the appearance will probably shape to match within a certain parameters. I'm sure each of their whatever each of their minds would see this as, would be comfortable perceiving them as. You'll find that's true of a great many things now that you're outside of it all."
Yeah, and as he reaches out for him, and we see that like he's wearing these, I don't know, some sort of polyester or some sort of other composite gloves that are old and worn to the point where along the stitching along the edges, as like we just see the image of him reaching out for one of these orbs of incandescent light as the seam has started to fray and break. He pauses and reaches in and picks up one of these wrist communicators and, runs his thumb over the back of it, moves it between his fingers before he nods and puts it back with the others, closes whatever case that it was in, and tries to move to tuck that in somewhere safe in the robe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Charlie kind of looks at you and he says, and he kind of goes, "That's exactly what I thought. You're right prepared from the beginning." He nods. He goes, "The universe couldn't have chosen a better messenger. You're like Hermes from one of those old fables from not even certain where." He goes, and he nods, and he kind of nods. He puts his hand on your shoulder. He says, "And when you're traveling between, when you come back for the last time, be careful. The Dominion of the Black can get between the lines, as it were, same as we." And he puts his hand on your shoulder. He goes, "I wish you go." Oh, I said, "For what it's worth, I wish you all the luck that we can muster." He puts his hand on your shoulder. He says, and he kind of like, maybe that's the point where he does that thing where he's like, "Now go. You have important work to do."
And he stands up and walks towards the door, and as he opens it, pauses right before he steps through for the first time and looks back over his shoulder, and there's just a quiet, "Thank you." And then steps through.
And I think maybe this camera stays with Charlie just long enough to get a, "Oh, thank you." And when you step through, where do you end up first? On the Tempest, the Fireshrike, or the Stellar Flare? Do you end up on the ship with Captain Zai, the ship with Twinkle, or the ship with Vesa?
Probably the ship with Twinkle.
Alright.
Twinkle was the person he was closest to on the crew.
Twinkle, you are in the process. You are on the process of getting your stuff together, like getting your crew together to get motivating. And first of all, I have a question. Like, were you heading to the system with Sansorgus in it first, since you have permission now to do so, to pick up the clues that you can pick up there, or are you
Yes.
going to try to skip to go? Okay, good. Twinkle, I think maybe this is like you are walking. Maybe this is where you and Xander are possibly talking, getting ready to go or whatever. At some point, like making your final arrangements, and there is a glowing white. There is like a glowing, multicolored square appears in the room with you, and there is a moment where it just shimmers there for a second, and then it opens like a door, and a familiar face steps through. Someone you haven't seen in a long time. It's Cyril. Cyril, you step out through, and there is Twinkle and Xander. It looks like you got them in the middle of a conversation. Oliver, you could potentially be there as well if you will, but I don't know if you are there.
Oh, he's probably
Good.
probably just going over the list one last time. We need to make sure we Serald? I thought you were dead. And he runs over and gives you the hug only an isekai can. Right around the knees.
Aww.
He would have tackled you to the ground, but he's just too tiny.
Hi.
Serald, I thought you were gone.
And here's a good question. Like, is it just the two of them? Like, the first thing Cyril would be doing is looking around as just to make sure that, like, it's just these two in the room with him. Or three if there's a bear.
I was gonna
He
say, I
doesn't
think
know
it's
the
just
bear, but, you know, if they're not like, Jesus Christ, there's a bear in the room.
If not,
Well, I don't
Twinkle
know.
can clear the room
Depends on
real
what they're
damn
doing.
fast. I mean, he is captain.
Just lost Discord. It'll be just 1 second.
Oh, no.
Well, now we may never know. It's
Does
John's
Oliver want to be there?
I'm so
I mean-
glad Cyril's here.
What was happening? Like, you were going over stuff, but what were you going over?
Probably
Departure list.
final preparations before departure.
Is that something you would want Oliver there for?
Schrodinger's
That'd be
bear.
Well, you're only the head of a department.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, if you have the heads there, then yeah.
No,
Are
probably
you guys
just
in
you
the
two.
head? Because that'd be a real awkward place to run into you on the ship.
No,
Her-
probably just the two of them, just you two.
Okay.
He's probably dismissed everybody else, and it's just you two. Yeah, you're the head of biological science. Xander's the head of research.
Oh, there's an immediate scan on Cyril.
Nope, there we are.
There you go.
Back.
I imagine
Yeah.
scanning Cyril.
Back.
He's ostensibly human. I'm not sure what reading you get from someone who, for the last, what is time to someone who has been outside of time and space for a while. He doesn't fit.
Range biological markers. Are
Right,
you
pretty
10
much.
or 110?
You have way too
10,010.
you have way too much
10,000.
argon in your system. How does that work?
Yeah, Oliver. He
Badly.
Still, Oliver, he still reads like a human, but it's weird.
I imagine, yeah.
Human
Yeah,
with an asterisk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
His biological processes are they seem like they're in a weird flux state.
And your carbon dating is extreme.
Yeah.
But
What
he doesn't
are
recognize
you
Oliver.
doing here?
At that, he just, like... He makes sure that, like, everyone is there that should be there, and it's just like a...
Let's move. Quickly. There are those who need to stop this.
That takes Twinkle aback.
That takes me aback.
Uh,
I love
uh,
this.
you mind repeating that?
Give up. Only the four of us.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Well,
well,
if
I
we
can
need to
actually
get...
tell that.
What's that?
I was like, that's actually something I would know. So, Jessa, is there any other living beings in this room at the time?
other than you guys that are.
And the assassins.
No,
That's
there's
right.
no one else in the. There's no one else in the
Assassins
room.
of
Yeah.
the
And yeah, the bear would just be like, the room is empty.
Well, it's the bridge,
It's
so
it.
it's not going to be forever. Serald, what's going on?
Ever mysterious because that's his new shtick. Cyril just reaches into his robe and pulls out this. I imagine it probably looks like. Now, does the box change in order to meet people's perspectives, or just the
No, the box-
indices in them?
The box does too. I mean the box probably would shift between box or briefcase or suitcase depending on who's looking at it, what they kind of expect to see.
Well, in this case, for the group assembled, it looks like a very old yet well cared for cigar box, made of a rich mahogany, inlaid with gold. And he pushes a button in the middle to unclasp it as it opens up. And what would Twinkle's index look like to him?
Does it look? Is it something that Twinkle or Xander would perceive as a wrist communicator or a piece of jewelry? Would it read as like a tab? Would it process in your mind as like?
Is
a
that what it's
tablet
supposed
or
to
a
be?
book?
Okay.
It's
To me,
whatever-
it would probably be a book. Now that I think
Alright.
about it.
Yeah.
The wrist communicator to Twinkle, so you just see Twinkle put a book on his wrist.
Okay, I have a wrist. Okay,
But
you're not giving me a whole lot of
he
information.
pulls it out
here.
of the.
Sorry,
He,
go ahead.
he pulls it out and pulls it out towards Twinkle and is like,
Take it. It's a gift. In the days ahead, it will give you strength.
He kind of takes it, puts it on his wrist. I'm only doing this because I trust Serald. But what the hell's going on?
I cannot say too much. Time and space, they begin to flux. You must find those who are willing to stop this. Use
That-
what I give you.
I didn't catch the last part of that, sorry.
use what I've given you.
Okay, so what exactly have you fucking given me? Looking at it over,
Now you know how I feel.
experimentally
Next.
pressing a couple buttons.
A key.
To
To you, time and space will be intermingled. Seek out those who would be your friends here, those who would be your friends elsewhere.
Could you be more fucking cryptic? No,
And
never mind. he's like, no, you could. Just, I don't want to know. We'll figure this out as we go, just like everything else that's been happening in my tenure as captain here.
And like, there's a pause as he reaches out and like clasps the index that you have on your wrist. So just like gently holds your wrist, and it's just like,
Keep it close and keep it safe, and they will fear you.
They are. You're not talking about the Dominion, are you?
They cannot be.
and he pauses and
I cannot say. I linger long. You know what you have to do.
Do I though?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you do. Soon I fill you in about the whole dominion of the thing.
I'm getting really bad chopping from literally everyone. Is that the same for everybody else?
I'm getting it from you. I'm getting
yeah, getting it from you.
I'm getting it
Yeah.
from most everybody.
Yeah. I think the
Discord.
I've only dropped 10% of all of our frames so far.
Ooh. I mean, there's not much
Yay.
frames to drop, luckily, so.
Still dropping
well,
frames. Fucking lovely.
Yeah.
Are we, how are we looking? Is there something we need to do with Discord?
I mean,
Tighten it up?
there's nothing that really can be done. Just kind of ride it out, unfortunately.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me
Alright.
still?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Clear.
All right.
All right.
So you're gonna fill me in on the Dominion of the Black, you said? Scott?
The stream sounds clear.
Yeah,
Computer
look,
says, by the
he's
way.
he was messing with his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the whole sifter thing and them trying to go after that. And once I fully go into the research that I get from the library, we'll know more. And I have a feeling that thing that he just showed you will help us defend against that to get closer to the sifter, so that we can write the verse in the correct pattern that it's supposed to be.
Did I lose everyone?
Great.
No.
Oh, good. Okay. I just got super.
Oh wait. Did you hear Scott?
I cannot hear.
We're having that problem again. Right click
why-
Scott's name in
Is it just
Discord.
me?
Yeah, right click Scott's
It's
Discord and see if his volume is turned really far down.
sorry, folks. Technical issues.
Wow.
Well,
Everybody is going robot for me. And if it's going robot for me,
Chris
who
really
knows?
doesn't. Yeah. Chris doesn't like Scott, so we have to figure out how to get him to like him again.
Scott, say something.
Something 3 or
If he's
4.
talking, still not hearing it, I have his volume turned all the way up now.
Damn.
Oh,
Fuck.
okay.
Everyone else can hear him.
yeah.
No, we
I-
got issue
go ahead, Scott.
Saturday too.
Go ahead, Scott. I'll just not say stuff till I hear other people.
What are you supposed to say? How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Scott.
But can Chris hear me?
No.
Chris cannot.
No.
do.
So is light.
This is some wonky ass shit. For some reason, your Discord.
Go
like,
Discord.
Yeah.
We do
Your
have 10
greatness.
people in this voice channel.
Yes,
Well-
that is probably part of the problem.
No, remember on Saturday?
yeah, it was
Only like
happening
4
Saturday
of us.
too.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we had
Nope.
some issues. We did have some issues.
But it
Saturday.
only happened like once Chris got his own like phone and was going home. I thought. So like
No.
it was when he switched over to start driving home. That's when he couldn't hear Scott anymore.
Yeah, that's true, because that was an issue. 'Cause
Whatever.
It's happened in sign outs.
Whatever. Let's just move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we coming through on Gunner again?
It's spotty, but what else can we do?
Computer
Yeah.
stream's been coming through clear. Only a little bit of choppiness every once in a while.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's been clear. So I'm assuming Gunner's internet is probably prioritizing Twitch over Discord, and that's why we're coming through.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That might be it. All right. So back in the scene, we've got Harold, Twinkle, Oliver, and Xander, and you just gave them the codexes. So what's like, Twinkle? What is it like? You're like Xander. But first of all, give me a culture check because Isaki gave you that other book, and we're going to assume you had a little bit of time to study it.
Xander. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Scott, can you hear? Oh, there he is. All right. Awesome. And go ahead and roll your expertise dice on that too.
+2 or +1?
I don't know. Depends on your. You should have it in your special abilities.
I think
If
it
you're
was
like
2.
me, it's a +2.
So, and you guys are same level. Okay.
Mm.
So Xander, going through the book on like the code of the definition and the order of definition, you ran into a word that you realize you've run into several times in different research materials, but in different forms and variations. And you, and there it's INOP seems to be the root for something, because you have seen words like inopticant or well, INIP, sorry, and the words like iniptocant, inipos, inipar, like you see very, very different variations on this word, but you've seen it a lot, and it isn't until you got the book that, like, Isaki handed you the book with the stuff on the code of definition, that it struck you. You've seen this same root in at least a dozen different words in a dozen different locations, but you have no idea what it means or what it's referencing, because it seems to be used in different contexts in different places.
Okay, so this point I'd be like, okay, you got that. Let me get my notes together and go over this as well as the stuff I got from the library, and it'll make more sense to you, Captain, once I get all that information compiled. We can travel wherever we need to go. I'm going to my room to get this thing compiled to where it makes sense. I got this weird word that pops up everywhere. I need to figure out what this root word means with everything, but I need to do this research to figure out what's going on with all this information.
All right. Cyril, are you like still in the room, like visiting with him?
He's waiting until Twinkle seems like he gets it enough before he'll leave.
Cyril
Yeah.
kind of puts out a paw, a hand, isekai hand. Goes, "It's been good working with you."
He takes the hand and gives it a firm grip.
If all goes well, you still will.
Good. Then that means I'll see you on the other side, and I'm holding you to that. And he kind of turns and, alrighty, get Rulia up here. We're getting the fuck out of here, and I need to talk to her. Oh, and I guess Mahala too.
By the way, did you ever decide? Did you ever get back with Gridge and his grunts about acting as guides and
Yeah,
mercenaries?
we took him up on that offer.
Okay, yeah, they've set up Kip in your cargo hold.
I was like,
Sweet.
did you
For want of a
forget
better
about
place.
the credit card?
Yeah.
I've only got a season left, so I may or may not have to pay that balance.
So,
Well, no, I was talking about the Jester. The Jester gave you a black titanium card and then was like, did you buy the expensive guys or not? And I'm like, yes, you had a credit card.
I just wanted to be clear to make sure that I knew they were there with you. So,
Yep, works for me.
yeah.
So,
All right.
Yeah, with that out of the way, Cyril steps back through the magic-y portal.
All right. You find yourself back in the bar at the edge of the death of realities. The door is there behind you, ready to be opened again.
All right. 2 out of 3. I guess we're gonna go see Vesa next.
All right, we'll get to that in just a second. But we are gonna get to Vesa right this second. Right this second. Vesa,
Okay. Yeah.
you and Ashira pull yourselves, and Kolnak all pull yourselves up off of the ground. You're not entirely certain, but you think you lost consciousness for a second. There was the last thing you all remember, there was an explosion of black and purple energy that blew the door off of Melamie's room, and you were hit with a shockwave of this energy, and it kind of crackled around. As you kind of pull, as the two of you sort of kind of get
Hold
your
on,
way
we
to
have
the
someone
dungeon.
calling for a pause.
Okay. Who am?
That me.
Oh, you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, give us just